Yeah, some days I feel unfazed, like when I'm with my friends with a cup raised. On Monday, I got a gun raised. Suicidal, do or die until hump day. Then I go right back at it like an automatic. More drinks, more songs, more beats to rap. I need a shrink, I'm gone. More time keeps passing. No watch, no thoughts at all. Just a hat, new era. Rep my P's and those O's. Need the Phillies with the orange and black to feel home. From Citizens Bank back to Camden Yards. It's a tale of two cities, and trust we go hard. Trust we go hard. Yes, we go hard. You said we go hard. I said we go hard. Rockin' my Bob Cousy, stocking up on the loose. The lyrics come easy, but the life is a doozy. And yes, I'm choosy, and no, I won't settle, but I still take pop off over that kettle. Cause I'm talking bigger picture, and yes, I'm gonna hit you with the...
As we all know, without trucks, Australia stops. But sometimes it also seems that Australia stops because of trucks. Anyway, truck driving is a very important job, and without truck drivers, we'd be fucked. Basically, every industry relies on truck drivers, whether they're delivering items to a store, picking up ship boxes off the side of the freeway, helping to put out fires, or simply just smuggling people across the border or transporting drugs. But unfortunately, the drivers of these trucks don't get the same credit that the trucks themselves usually do. So in today's video, we'll be delving into the world of truck driving, the people who drive them, and of course, going through everything that you need to know about the truck driving industry. Anyway, that's enough waffle for now. It's time for me to shut the truck up and get on with it. Now, first up, we'll get into my credentials. Believe it or not, I used to work as a traffic controller, and 90% of that job was dealing with trucks and truck drivers, the good, the bad, and the completely stupid. I've seen truck drivers back a semi-trailer off a main road in the CBD into a little alleyway in one swing while navigating around peak hour traffic, and then I've also seen a cement truck back into one of our own company cars. And on top of that, as you can see here, I'm actually quite the truck driver myself.
Bro, you're on the wrong side of the road, you fuckwit.
You hit me. But of course, there's always more research to be done, so I headed off to the closest place that I knew I could find a lot of trucks. A highway overpass. And to be honest, from the overpass I couldn't really find much out. So after I threw a few cinder blocks and various other objects off the overpass, I got into the real reason that I actually went here. The CB radio. For those of you who don't know, the CB or UHF radio is an 80-channel radio system that truck drivers use to communicate to each other.
Could I get a radio check? Can I get a hiya?
To people in and around the job sites, and of course other road users. Now luckily for me, in my daily driver I have a CB radio installed, and I'll tell you now, it doesn't take much to get a truck driver going. Does anybody want to be my friend?
You fucking idiot.
Now obviously these harsh words really hurt my feelings, and it would really cheer me up if you guys pressed the subscribe button. Something like a third of you guys who regularly watch my videos aren't subscribed. It's free to do and it really helps a brother out. And if this video gets 5,000 likes by next week's upload, I'll give you guys 10 push-ups. Anyway. Now, I can't really include too much of the stuff that you'll find on the CB radio, because 99% of it is just racial slurs, people abusing each other, and then other people who sit on their remote and leave the radio playing through the CB radio. Now, anyone who's ever used the UHF will know exactly what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, just search it up and find out for yourself. It is pretty funny. Anyway, next up we're going to get into one of the most important parts about truck driving, and that of course is crashing them into things. Now, I'm not trying to make fun of truck drivers and put them down, but just like any job, there's people that are good at it, and there's people that aren't very good at it. And unfortunately, with the sheer amount of truck drivers there are all around the world, there's bound to be a lot of them that aren't good at all. But of course, everyone makes mistakes. But by far, one of the easiest ones to avoid is running into a low bridge. Now, there's low clearance bridges all over the world, and some very famous ones like the Can Opener in North Carolina. But of course, my favourite has to be my local one, the Montague Street Bridge, which I made a video on a couple years ago. And of course, on the day that I'm doing this voiceover, Monday the 28th of July 2025, the Montague Street Bridge has been hit again. Now, any truck driver that manages to hit this bridge is literally dumb as dog shit. Now, I've already gone over this in the video on this bridge that I made a couple years ago, so I won't go into it too deeply, but there's these little things that hang down here, and if you hit them, you'll definitely hear it. And then from both directions, there's a side street you can quickly duck down and get away from the bridge. Yet, it still sometimes gets hit daily. But another thing that truck drivers often have to look out for is stupid car drivers. Obviously, some people are just idiots. But for those of you who don't know, trucks have massive blind spots, especially here under the windscreen. So when you're sitting in traffic and you pull in front of one like this, or decide to cut in front of a 40-ton B-double on the freeway, don't be surprised when your car gets turned into a ping pong ball. Now, fortunately for us, trucks do a lot of kilometers and see a lot of the world's stupidest driving. And the best part is that more often than not, these trucks have dash cams. So now now we'll quickly get into some of the bullshit that truck drivers have to deal with on the open road. And first up, we have caravans. Now, it's no secret that people who drive caravans around, 90% of the time, they have no idea what they're doing. And of course, caravan drivers have two speeds, 30 kilometers under the speed limit and 30 kilometers over the speed limit. Now, due to the fact that most trucks are speed limited to 100 k's an hour by law, unless of course you illegally remove the speed limiter, but even then, these big heavy diesel trucks aren't exactly built for speed. So that usually means you're stuck behind these caravans doing 70 in a 110 zone for millions of kilometers, or they're trying to overtake you at 150 k's an hour, crashing in the process, or sometimes they even try and pull out in front of you, forgetting that their new 0 to 60 time is 7 business days. Then of course you got the other people trying to overtake, usually a Ford Ranger driver that didn't even bother to check if there was oncoming traffic before pulling off a risky move like this. And then of course you got some of the biggest geniuses of our generation, the people who brake test a prime mover with the 50-ton trailer in their Honda Accord, which of course always goes as expected. Then of course we've got the turning circle of trucks. See those signs that say don't overtake turning vehicle? There's a reason that they're there. Most trucks have to swing wide then cut back in to get around corners. So when people don't listen, this is usually what happens. But of course, sometimes truck drivers forget simple physics and try and take a corner that you probably couldn't get around in a smart car in a B-double. And the results usually end in a few crushed street signs, or depending on the location, blocking up an entire freeway. Now when it comes to driving trucks, a lot of the time, these drivers are doing long distances, which of course takes a long time. And back in the day, and still somewhat these days, truck drivers have found a solution to keep them awake for long hours and alert at all times. And that of course is called methamphetamine. Also known as the glass Harley, the crystal pistol, the see-through didgeridoo, you name it. But unfortunately, in recent years, the police have introduced a new drug testing scheme, making it a lot easier for these truck drivers to get caught red-handed behind the wheel of the glass Harley. And thanks to mandatory logbooks and these cameras you see on highways that track truck movement along the freeways, the days of smoking a bunch of ice and getting behind the wheels of a truck are slowly coming to an end. And the rules for how much you can drive in a day is limited to 12 hours for every 24 hours. So that means if you drive for 12 hours straight, you need to have another 12 hours of rest before you can start driving again. And if you don't adhere to this, there is big fines. So that means that at the end of their 12-hour driving shift, these truck drivers have to pull over and find somewhere to rest. And that's usually a truck stop. Now for those of you who don't know, a truck stop is basically just a big servo, with things like a truck wash and big fuel pumps that pump much faster than the normal ones to fill up trucks. And more often than not, these will be filled up with Ford Ranger drivers. And of course, how could I not mention road trains? Road trains are one of the staples of Australian trucking and is basically a human centipede comprised of truck trailers. Road trains are used to transport large amounts of cargo all over the country through the outback, and as far as I'm aware, they're the longest legal truck and trailer combinations in the world, often combined with up to 4 trailers. And in 2006, a world record was set in Queensland, with a Kenworth towing 112 trailers in total. That's almost 1.5 kilometers of road train. But unfortunately, road trains aren't really too common to see. They're usually restricted to the outback and other country roads because they don't really fit in the city at all. But that doesn't mean they're not still pretty cool. And some of the road trains that go to really remote areas have to navigate through some really treacherous roads. Anyway, now we're at the point of the video where we've got to get into some of the greatest truck driving moments in Australian history. In December of 2023, police discovered a 44-year-old B-double driver passed out on the side of the road with an empty bottle of vodka next to him with the truck still running. Now fortunately for us, we have body cam footage of the whole incident, and the man was breath tested where he returned a breath test result of 0.311, which for those of you who don't know is 6 times the legal limit. Now that is a decent effort in any man's language, but the fact that he didn't kill himself or anyone else on the road is nothing short of a miracle. Now this next one is nothing short of a blessing in disguise. In October of 2019, a truck carrying hundreds of cases of VB lost control and veered off the side of the road into a bank in Taree. Now maybe the driver of this truck had been enjoying his cargo a little bit too much more than he should have been, but as you can see from the footage here, this is basically my dream come true. Now by the looks of it, a lot of the cargo had been damaged, which means unfortunately it wouldn't have been able to be sold on shelves. Of course nobody was injured, but that's not the main point, because if you were driving on that highway in October of 2019, you would have absolutely hit the jackpot. But this isn't the only case of this happening. In 2002, in the town of Murwillumbah, northern New South Wales, a truck carrying 40,000 beer bottles tipped over and spilt them everywhere. But the best thing about this accident is that it happened right next to the local river, and that meant that all the beer that spilled out of the truck went straight into the river. So of course the locals did the most logical thing and came down with fishing nets, boats, you name it. And of course they only had one thing on their mind, and that was of course to save the environment. They even made a short film about it called Murbar Swamp Beer, where they interview people and police officers who were there on the day, and they recount how they couldn't believe how eager everyone was to help out. But unfortunately, not all of these spills are precious cargo like beer. There have been a few incidences when a truck carrying human waste or other similar gross things has tipped over, spraying it all over the freeway or other residential places. And on that stinky note, I think it's time to end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment and share, and I'll see all of you guys in the next one.